Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to Glasgow Rangers Nation podcast live. Feels like a long time since I said good evening to everyone. Busy few days, and I'm joined tonight by Damien, all the way from Scotland. Damien, how are you doing, buddy?
Not bad, thank you. And how's you?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Just as us, we're staying off air, just tired from work. Now, Laura will be joining us at some point tonight, hopefully. I know she's been at work tonight, so she will be dashing in, no doubt, at some point, and I'll get her joined as soon as is humanly possible. Now, guys, before we all start tonight, I think, you know what? Did you know we have got in our presence tonight a man who has met Rangers royalty, Rangers just pure. Damien, I'm not saying I'm jealous or anything, but the pictures on Facebook that I've seen with you, with Jack Butland, Philippe Clement, Graham Souness. I mean, Damien, tell the viewers, tell everyone the story.
Yeah, I got a text during the week, last week. Obviously, there was that event at the SEC Armadillo in Glasgow, Graham Souness and friends with Jack Butland and Philippe Clement. And I was kind of looking at from a distance going, that looks quite good. I wonder if they've got any entertainment for it. Whoever's doing it is a lucky so-and-so, you know. And then I got a text during the week asking if I wanted to sing a couple of songs at the start of it. So, of course, I jumped at it. And before you know it, I'm shaking hands with all those mentioned. And starstruck's an understatement. I was extremely nervous, but what an experience. So fortunate.
And you were saying off air what a great bloke Jack Butland is as well.
So down to earth. Obviously, I spoke very briefly with the other guys as well, but it was very much they're getting told where to go. You need you here, we need you there. There wasn't much time for talking, but I managed to bump into Jack quite early on in the proceedings and have a wee blare with him, and he's so down to earth, just puts you right at ease straight away. Lovely big guy.
Absolutely fantastic, guys. If you haven't seen Damien's pictures on Facebook, have a look at them, and just amazing, fantastic. Get to meet all these Rangers legends. And Damien, you were telling me as well off air that one ex-Rangers manager was on the bit of a wind up with you as well.
Yeah, Graham Souness. As soon as I met him, he was like, "Oh, are you doing the singing tonight? Are you?" And I said, "Yeah." No pressure, like, and he went, "Oh no, lots of pressure." He said, "I did do a bit of an impression off here, but I'm not going to do that again." And he says, "No, lots of pressure. We're going to be great, so you're going to have to be really good as well." So I was like, "Oh, for sake, getting a ribbon off Graham Souness here. What's my life?"
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I mean, as I was saying to Damien off air, that's one he can tell his grandchildren about, meeting, pure Rangers royalty, and hopefully, obviously, as well, a Rangers treble-winning manager in Philippe Clement as well. And I know you spoke very briefly to Philippe Clement because he was been, as you said, off air, being pulled here, there, and everywhere. What just sort of a brief, what was he actually like in person, Damien?
Pretty much exactly what you would think in terms of the height of him and that kind of those eyes. He's very, very imposing, very, very intimidating, as if I wasn't already intimidated enough, But no, just magic. Shook his hand. Hi, pleased to meet you. Did well and all that, and see you later. I still haven't got over it, to be honest. But yeah, he's a very imposing, just as he comes across. Very imposing, a big presence about him. Quite intimidating, but he's got a wee twinkle in his eye. You can tell he's got a bit of warmth and humour about him as well.
Oh no, I can imagine, and I can imagine his presence there. I mean, the way he comes across impresses, the way he comes across full stop. He must have that. He must have that aura around him as well. So it must be incredible to meet someone of his stature, and obviously meet all those legends as well as also apparently bumping into Gordon Jury in the hallway as well.
Yeah, Gordon Jury was in the audience watching. Jim White, who was sort of hosting the evening, mentioned it when he was kind of doing the introduction to the show and all that. He said, "Oh, we've got somebody else in the crowd tonight, Gordon Jury." And then when I was walking the corridors between the sort of stage bit in the bar, I went for a beer after I performed. I was still shaking like a leaf. I bumped into none other than Gordon Jury, and he walked straight up to me and went, "Oh, well done, man. You did really well." And broke the ice straight away. So I had a wee quick chat with him, and honestly, unbelievable. It's stuff of dreams, but I've still not quite come back down to earth from it.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. I think, you know what? I think if I'd been in your place, Damien, I think I'd still be telling my friends and family, did I tell you that I met so and so? Did I tell you that I shook hands with so and so? I'm sure they'd be absolutely fed up with me by now. I'm sure that so there's my partner there in the live chat as well. I'm sure she'd be absolutely fed up with me as well in talking about it. Well, Damien, obviously it's been a weird weekend, hasn't it? I mean, if we just kind of touch on the weekend, we're obviously still top of the league. Damien, the Motherwell game, what did you make of that game?
Well, for starters, I didn't see us still being top of the league at this point. I'll say that first of all. Motherwell game, it was one of those ones, who saw that coming? I feel like we were all poised for Hearts to be a really, really tough game, and we were all proven quite wrong quite quickly. And I think we all thought, we didn't think it was going to be a breeze, but we thought compared to Hearts, surely, we'll get the job done today. But it was one of those ones, we lacked a lot of urgency, particularly in the first half. We were very passive with the ball, a lot of loose balls out from the back, just to nobody. Motherwell were pouncing on everything straight away and getting on top of us. Fair credit to them, by the way, because they did get on top of us, and that their big forward Bear had a right good go at it, and at times made Goldson and Suter look quite average, amateurish at times. The way he sort of commanded his position and sort of pulled them out of position, run them about a bit. Obviously, officiating terrible again, shocking again. I feel like we talk about this all the time, but I feel like it's important to mention that we do mention this even when we're winning. It's not just sour grapes kind of stuff. We talk about the bad officiating even when we're winning games in spite of it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The biggest example of that is Casey, who eventually goes on to score the winner, should be sent off for a horror challenge on McCausland. Yes, he wins the ball, but the momentum and the positioning of his studs and the trajectory towards his leg, that's qualifies straight away. There it is. Qualifies straight away as reckless, dangerous, whatever the threshold is these days. It should have been a red card, and I believe more than one ex-professional referee have subsequently agreed with that assertion. So yeah, it's not all about the officials. We did lack urgency, like I said. We were very passive. Created a few decent chances, but again, it's that cutting edge that's missing. And yeah, what else can I say? It was very disappointing.
Absolutely. Yeah, got to say I agree with you, Damien. I was on the way home from work. I listened to on the radio, and then obviously watched the second half, and then obviously rewatched the game later. And it was disappointing. I think I think what was the biggest disappointment for me though was the fact we kind of got over the hurdles of what we perceived to be those biggest two games, the Hearts game, which we obviously was a fantastic result, the Kilmarnock game, which we'll briefly touch on shortly. And we overcame those two hurdles. And I have to say, they were the two games looking at sort of in February into March that were really concerning me. Just to lose to Motherwell for me was just, they just seemed to lack, like you said, any urgency, and there was no aggression in the play. It was genuinely awful, and I don't really want to have to talk about officials, but unfortunately, like you said, Damien, that challenge by Casey, who goes on to score the winner, is just it's reckless. It endangers the player, and as I said in one of the videos during the week, it's all very well and good, isn't it, saying that football's a man's game, and we all love a tackle, don't we? We all love that clattering into somebody, but those days are gone now. The days of being able to play like Souness and Roberts and Hurlock and go around clattering people on the field, they're gone. For whether we like it or not, those days are over now. Football's becoming very much more like a non-contact sport. And yes, Casey may have got the ball, but he absolutely destroys poor Ross McCausland, and it's another injury, Damien, and that's just not what we need, is it, at this stage?
Absolutely not, no. And like you say, it's a different game. But ultimately, these sort of thresholds and stuff are put in place for player safety, which is ultimately what it's all about. Because we don't have a game if we don't have players in it. Do you know what I mean? If we're allowed to make challenges like that week in, week out, we're not going to have any players left to play the game. I do think it was extremely reckless. I do think it warranted a red card, and I do think it's game-changing decision that goes against us again. But like I says, in the main, obviously the intensity wasn't there, apart from maybe the last sort of third of the game, when obviously we realise that, we're under the cosh and the points are slipping away. We really start to show some really quite decent, quite commendable levels of effort and incision and stuff like that. But for me, it's too little too late. If we'd have treated them with a level of respect that brought that intensity out from the first whistle, we might not have been talking about the referees at all. It could have been another procession like it was against Hearts. So for me, the intensity came way too late on in the game, and that's ultimately what cost us, although the officiating didn't help.
Absolutely. And I think you're right. And it's one thing I tried to put across on the videos, and also, when I was talking to some people on X or Twitter or whatever it's called, just saying that we've got to take the game out of the ref's hands. And yes, you can blame Alan Muir. Yes, he had an appalling game. But look, are any of us surprised? Scottish refereeing is just ridiculously bad. I mean, I wouldn't trust half of them to referee a kids' game, let alone a professional game. But I think it papers over the fact that there were some big cracks in that performance on Saturday. Now, one of the big concerns that I've kind of had, and I think I'm seeing written a few more times by Rangers analysts, is around the rotation. Now, professional footballers like to have settled 11s, and you kind of look at teams that have gone on in the past to win things and to be really successful over a long period of games. It's been very much a settled starting 11 unless you've had injuries. Do you think that the rotation is perhaps affecting the way we start games, and the fact that players are not used to always playing together, and there's too much rotation going on?
Perhaps, and I think obviously rotation for rotation's sake, I agree with you, is unsettling and is disruptive. But I think with our injury list being what it is and growing yet again, with the number of games we're playing, being that we're still in 3 competitions, it's sadly inevitable. It's something that we need to rely on. So I'm afraid it seems to be a bit of a necessity at the moment, albeit probably isn't conducive to that sort of continuity and performances. Although I think really until the Kilmarnock game, even with fairly heavy rotation, we were seeming to maintain that that sort of cohesion and that fluidity as a team. Whereas that now seems to be kind of dropping off a bit as we pick up more injuries and as the sort of pressure accelerates.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think injuries are obviously mounting. Just a few in the live chat. Obviously, nothing 100% confirmed on the extent of McCausland's injury. I think we'll have to wait for Philippe Clement's presser tomorrow ahead of Benfica to find out how long and what the nature of that injury is. Obviously, he joins, unfortunately, Oscar Cortez, Abdallah Sima, Todd Cantwell, a growing list of injured players, of very influential injured players. We will obviously have to touch on that shortly. Good point. So Janet says about has he been cited for tackle? No, he hasn't. There's been, as far as they're concerned, because there was no yellow card issue, because there was no action taken against Casey, nothing will happen to him. It is done and dusted at the moment that the referee didn't even award a foul.
Shocking that.
There can't be any retrospective punishment for that. Other people points out that Celtic have had their appeal thrown out as well. Yes, they did appeal against that Yang assault on the Hearts player. Damien, I don't particularly want to talk about them, but did you see the red card incident? And are you as bemused as me at how they're so outraged about how it was a red card?
I didn't see the incident itself. I've seen that sort of screenshot that's been going about that I think everyone's probably seen by now. Yes, that one. I know if it was probably, if you're trying to be as balanced and unbiased as possible, you would probably say it's tough to judge from a still. But from all accounts I'm seeing across the board, apart from a certain section of football fans that we won't mention, it's a red card, pure and simple. And obviously this appeal being thrown out just backs it up, because you think if there was any chance at all of it not being, then they would have got, they would have got a wee favour there, I'm sure.
I was, to be honest with you, I was fully expecting it to be overturned because it was them, purely and simply because it was them. So, well done to, and I don't often do this, but well done to the SFA for sticking by their guns on that one. And I think, that it was a bit of an embarrassment, and I think it's all part of the meltdown. Hopefully, that's still ongoing on that side of the city. Now, one of the things that obviously you've touched on there, Damien, and I've mentioned as well, is our growing, mounting injury list. But it's not just an injury list; it's injuries to key players. And for me, one of the things that we're really missing, and we were missing to some extent on Saturday, was width and influence as well in that 10 position. Now, if we touch on the width first of all, you look on the left-hand side of the pitch, we were obviously without Rabbi Matondo, who I know gets a very mixed review from Rangers fans. Abdallah Sima, who is out till early April, who is a massive loss given what he's contributed this season. And then obviously Oscar Cortez, who I honestly think had kind of fulfilled that creative void that Todd had left when he went out injured. The lack of wingers is very concerning at this point. And it's not through lack of recruitment. It's just purely through injuries, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And even as you say, on the left-hand side, we had McCausland out there at the weekend, and now he's potentially out as well. So you're down to, I think, quite possibly Diomande can, not to say that he does often or has yet for us, he can play in that sort of wide left role if required. And it's looking like we're going to have to start relying on the likes of maybe Diomande or Lawrence playing in more wider positions now until we get some of those key players back, like you say.
One player that Janet has mentioned in the live chat is obviously Zach Lovelace, who's back and fit now. Zach played out wide, didn't he, against St Mirren in that game where he was injured when he did his hamstring. Is Zach Lovelace someone you'd like to see given a run out? And I think, as far as I'm aware, he will be available for the European squad as part of the B list. Obviously, there's A-list players, the players that you include into the squad who are part of the senior pros, and your B-list is your youth team players who just get included as standard. Is Zach Lovelace someone you could see doing a job out there or in the short term for us, Damien?
It's getting to the point where I feel like ordinarily you'd say probably not, particularly in Europe. Yes, he's a talented guy, and he's had flashes. Obviously, he showed his worth a lot in the youth setup. He's not really featured much for the first team. Obviously, gets injured pretty much on his first start, I think it was, and he's not really been back. Yeah. That's him just coming back now. But I think it's getting to the stage, Owen, like you say, particularly with the injuries as they are and mounting as they are. We're going to have to start looking at the likes of Lovelaces and maybe some other younger players as well to sort of make up the numbers.
Absolutely. And Stuart says I would definitely have him on the bench on Thursday for some impact. The injury situation is really worrying. And given the fact that obviously, Dujon Sterling, Dujon, I honestly think that lad could play in goal if you asked him, he'd play anywhere for you. Obviously, he's playing on one wing at the moment. As you said, Ross was playing on the left wing, which is not really his natural position. We are really struggling in terms of forward attacking players. And for me, one of the big losses we've had, and I think it showed against, and as well, Tom, don't get me wrong, I think Tom Lawrence is a good player. I love Tom Lawrence to bits. I think he's brilliant. But there's just something extra special about Todd Cantwell and what he can do and the moments of magic and those little things he can do to unlock defences. And I think against Kilmarnock and against Motherwell especially, we really did miss Todd's influence.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's that ability, isn't it, to do something on a penny, like just a little kind of in a little tight space. He sort of manages to find his way out and find that little bit of space to do something influential and do something incisive. Like you say, that Lawrence has got that as well, but not maybe quite to the same extent or on quite the same unique way that Cantwell offers that. And I do think it is those kind of players that we do miss, particularly in those games when you see how compact they are. Obviously, Kilmarnock, really, really compact, really, really tough to break down. And again, Motherwell there, although we didn't do ourselves any favours with the defending for their 2 goals, when we get the ball forward, you look at the box and it's just it's so compact, it's so congested. And it is difficult, and you do need players with a wee bit of flair, with a wee bit of X factor about them, for want of a better term, to unpick that lock, as you say.
Absolutely, 100%. And some interesting comments in the live chat as well. Albert's 11 Legend says, "Don't think Sterling worked on the wing. Think he might put Silva on the left, right. Oh God, right on the right, and Dessers up top." Silva out wide could be a possibility, or even Silva in the 10 role. I'd like to see Silva been experimented with because he's not a 9. He's not an out-and-out 9. He said that himself. Is Silva? Would you like to see him been experimented with a little bit more?
Well, yeah, and he kind of has been a little bit, but obviously hasn't featured in the wider areas much, apart from just the usual sort of interchanging forward positions as the game's sort of ongoing. But he's another one that does have that little bit of magic about him, and in moments, in key moments, he's more liable to take the ball past somebody and get a ball into the box, or make an influential dribble into the box, or something like that could create a moment to score from,
Absolutely. Matt says, Matt Gunner says in the live chat, Campbell, Dow, Seaman, Matondo, Danny, obviously Danilo, all back in next 4 weeks. That's go. I mean, obviously that will be positive if we can get those players back. I mean, they were talking end of March, sort of mid-March to end of March for Danilo and Cantwell, and I think they were talking start of April for Seema coming back. Kieran Dowell, I don't know what's going on with Kieran Dowell when he'll be back. I mean, he just seems to disappear and reappear at different random moments. Really is. Now, you see, one of the things you did touch on, Damien, when you were sort of critiquing the match, and I 100% agree with you, is the lack of a real cutting edge, a real finish. Now, look, Cyril Dessers and Fabio Silva, the both of them, one thing that really worries me, Damien, is that, yes, they score goals in games where the pressure doesn't appear to be on in the league. Dessers has scored, 13, 14 this season, I think, which is a fantastic return. But when the pressure is really on, when he's through one-on-one in games where we're not, creating sackloads of chances and we're not running away with the game, he seems to really suffer and, for want of a better word, bottle it.
Yeah, and it could be due to the pressure, like you say, or is he just one of these players that, as we've touched on before, he needs like 7, 8 chances to get one goal. Whereas obviously other players, the kind of player you're wanting that we're talking about with a cutting edge, with an eye for goal, they only need the 1 or 2, and they take those chances. We've got our again, due to injuries, no fault of Dessers, that he's our only sort of fit and available out and out striker. But he suffers from this, that he needs multiple chances to get 1 goal. And it's only by virtue of the fact that we create so many chances that he's scoring so many goals. When you look at some of the ones he misses, you're scratching your head thinking, what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. That's what worries me, Damien, is, when the pressure's on, when we really need him, when, when he's through one-on-one with the goalkeeper in, maybe in the Estadio de la Luz on Thursday, or Ireland's Benfica, or even on the 7th of April against that lot. Do you trust him? Do you really trust him to put the ball in the back of the net? I know people have said, Ali McCoy's missed sitters in the past, and Mark Hateley did, and and so on and so forth. But there was just something about those guys that when it really mattered, when it really counted, you knew that when the ball fell to them, there was only one place that ball was going to end up, and it was going to end up in the back of the net. And Super Ali, you could trust him. Mark Hateley, Nacho Novo, Nikita Jelavic, all those guys. And I could sit and I can name loads, and the podcast would be like 5 hours long. But there's just a real lack of trust on my half that when we really need him, is he going to do the job for us? And it's my one worry, Damien, going forward towards the end of the season, as to whether we go on and actually win this treble.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes it probably seems like we're constantly picking on him, but it's not. It's just that, I mean, people all bring out the goal he scored against Betis as an example of him scoring in the big games. However, you could argue that there wasn't any expectation for us to win that game. I think we were thinking, game's a bogey, and he comes up with that. And fair play to him, it was probably one of the goals of the season. But yeah, when he gets the balls, particularly through one-on-one, I'm more expecting him to miss it than score it, which is not a good sign. And that's not through badness or pessimism. It's through having watched him week after week since he's got here, and the chances that he takes and the chances that he misses. And arguably, he scores the more difficult ones, which is even more frustrating.
Yeah, Absolutely. He kind of, in a way, reminds me of It reminds me a bit of Fashion to a lesser extent. I mean, he doesn't understand the offside rule, evidently, which Fashion never understood. And Fashion was another one who seemed to score the worldies and yet miss the absolute sitters. So he does to some degree remind me of Fashion Sakala.
Yeah, a little bit. And again, that's another player. He's now absolutely flying over in Saudi Arabia, and I feel like I'm seeing videos every week of him scoring again, like you say, worldies and just running riot. Is that another case of he wasn't given enough of a chance? I feel like a lot of people are pinning that one on Beale, probably rightly so. If Sakala's account of how he left the club is to be believed, but yeah, very frustrating, very very frustrating.
Absolutely. Janet McFarlane says Lawrence needs to start, obviously meaning Thursday. And I think going forward, I think Tom Lawrence does. Tom Lawrence is a fantastic footballer. He's got an eye for a pass. He can play pretty much anywhere along that front three. He takes shots on. He is a quality player, and I honestly think that he would probably be more highly regarded and probably much further on as well if he didn't get so many injuries. But I really do rate Lawrence, but his injury history does hold him back a little bit.
Yeah, that's sadly been the case with a lot of good players that we've signed in recent years. And again, probably the reason we're able to sign some of those quality of players that we have is due to their problems with injuries. Because I think again we've said previously, had like likes of a Kamar Roof or Tom Lawrence, as you say, been fit and flying their whole careers, they wouldn't be anywhere near. Let's be honest, they wouldn't be anywhere near the SPL, would they?
No, they wouldn't. I think that's the thing. I think Lawrence, if he'd stayed fit, I think he would have been sold on now for a considerable profit. He is that sort of quality player, and even if it had just been to an English Championship team, I think we've got to realise that even those clubs now, and even though all those clubs in the Championship, with perhaps the exceptions of perhaps Leeds United and clubs like that who are huge, they have so much money down there. Even the mid-table Championship clubs just have so much money now because of the TV deals. So yeah, they would obviously be able to come in and snap him up. Now, Blue Nose John asks a good question before we move on. What we're going to talk about this evening. He says, "Do you think we'll try and sign Seema permanently?" Before I get Damien's take on this, John, I would love to sign Seema permanently. The only worry is what Brighton are going to want for him. The only problem I've got with that is that there always seems to me to be an English tax on players you buy from England. Players that come out of the EPL or out of the Championship, even for the most average, and I'm not saying Seema is average, carry massive price tags, huge price tags. There was a guy who moved from Bristol City to Bournemouth. The guy, his last name was Scott. I can't remember his first name. £23 million. He was an attacking midfielder. I haven't heard anything of him this season. Joel Pirot, who went from Swansea to Leeds in the Championship, £16 million. So it does slightly concern me what Brighton are going to ask for him. The only worry would be that if it's anything in excess of about 7 million, say, honestly can't see Rangers paying the money for him because I don't think we've got vast sums of money to splash on players. What do you think, Damien? Do you think we'll try and sign him permanently?
Yeah, well, we certainly don't have vast sums of money to splash on players after that bloody free for all Michael Beale got given in the summer.
Yeah,
But let's not get let's not get too much into that again. I think most people would have said up until this point we would have loved to have signed him. Obviously, the only disappointing thing now is that he is injured. Is this going to be another one that's joining the books with an injury prone sort of thing? I don't know, but I think the quality that he's got, what he's offered in terms of numbers prior to his injury, and even again if he can come back towards the end of the season in the sort of crunch games and just provide that extra something. I think we'll do what we can to get him. But like yourself, Owen, it's the financial thing that concerns me, and you're probably looking at, especially if he comes back and we have a successful season, let's say, he's probably going to go even farther out of our price range, if that makes sense.
yeah. The one thing I can see with Seema, and I know Seema loves playing for the club. You can tell how much he loves playing for the club. But the one thing I can see, similarity I can see, is a bit of the Malik Tillman incident. That's the one thing that does worry me slightly. Obviously, Malik Tillman was basically promised to us. It was, oh, if you want him, you can have him. But then suddenly, obviously, the loan agreement's broken. And his price tag obviously is now way out of way out of our ballpark. I think I can see some similarities with that. Just answer Robert's question quickly. Yes, Silva is in the Euro squad. So that is a bonus. Stuart says, but did they sign Cortez because the board knew that we can't afford Seema? It's an interesting question because obviously Cortez and Seema play in very similar positions. If we do go on to sign Cortez, which I think his buy clause is $3.5 million, does that mean that Seema's definitely not coming if we buy Cortez?
That's a good point. I hadn't considered that. Quite possibly a bit of forward thinking there, but I think most of us would agree. And even Seema himself has said, I think you mentioned that he's dead happy here, and you get the impression for the big man that he would quite enjoy staying here beyond the end of his loan deal. Whether that does materialise into another loan, or if we do, like you say, splash the cash for him, I don't know. Cortez, obviously, depending how he comes back from his injury, could be that option going forward.
Absolutely, 100%. But I mean, even if we do go on to sign, well, we will go. I think we will sign Cortez. He looks a player, doesn't he? I'd love to see Seema as well. I mean, you could even have Cortez on one wing and Seema on the other wing, and get them interchanging positions. That would be enough to scare the living daylights out of any SPFL defence and quite a few defences in Europe, wouldn't it, Damien?
I wouldn't mind seeing that at all. Not at all.
Especially if we went on and got a regular, a good quality striker as well. Someone like Agent Shankland, who did the business for us again at the weekend as well. So with him up front, with Todd in behind him, I could see that would be quite a fearsome front four, wouldn't it?
It would. And there's an example again of a player that he doesn't need umpteen chances. He gets a big chance, he takes it, and he scores big goals in big games. What more could you ask for?
Absolutely.
And he's a Rangers fan, which doesn't hurt.
Someone did make the point that he seems to be actually gaining us more points by not playing for us than actually by us splashing money on him signing him, thank goodness. So it's a good job we didn't sign him in a way, I guess.
Well, he bailed us out big time at the weekend there, didn't he?
He did, absolutely. Well done, Lawrence Shanklin. Congratulations from all your fans on the blue side of Glasgow. Just going back to one of the things that going back to the rotation for a minute, Damien. One of the things that I've kind of got, I don't know, I get a little bit. I don't know if it's just me being thick or what, but the rotation only seems to apply to certain players. Certain players seem to never be rotated ever out of the squad, and I can understand that for certain individuals like James Tavernier. There is really no one else who can take his place because Sterling can, but he's more useful elsewhere. But you look at some of them, like obviously Tavi's never rotated, Goldson is never rotated, Lundstrom is never rotated. And I'll be honest with you, I think Lundstrom's looking tired and leggy at the moment. I think he is one player who could do with a bit of rotation. Does there seem to be a few untouchables in this squad?
I think you're right in that there probably are a few, but and I do get what you're saying about the rotation and about how some of them seem to be immune to it, but you do kind of want there to be those kind of mainstays as well. You want any successful team needs to have like a sort of a backbone, if you like. And sadly, because of our situation with injuries, we can't afford to have to set that backbone purely on performances. It's also mainly due to fitness and availability just now. And the players you've mentioned, and obviously in Tavernier, Goldson and Lundstrom, although not always probably picked on merit, are by and large the most kind of regularly available, fit players that can handle the load of 2-3 games in a week's just over a week's time. So it probably is a lot of it down to just the fitness and availability that those particular players have got, rather than for any other reason, with the exception of probably Tavernier, like you say, because of the crazy numbers that he continues to offer going forward and goals and assists. So it probably, for the other areas, it probably is just a bit. We don't really have the squad depth to continually rotate all areas in that same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. It does. I mean, especially I think obviously coming to Tav, and we'll touch on Tav again in a moment. But one of the players of that, as Rosie puts it, sturdy core. Rosie, one of my mods, that sturdy core that we have. That really is worrying me at the moment. And look, I know I get an awful lot of stick for this. And look, fine, as I think you said yourself, football's a game of opinions, and we all have our differing opinions on this, and that's absolutely fine. Look, I don't think that one thing clear from the outset. And if you go back right to the very start of Glasgowians Nation over a year ago and you watch my videos and whatever, you'll see that I'm not someone who hates Connor Goldson. I actually have defended Connor Goldson in the past. But at the moment, he is really worrying me. He gets caught out an awful lot. He is getting out muscled an awful lot. He seems to have lost a yard of pace. He's been beaten by the same goal 4 times this season, the ball over the top, where he's kind of completely lost track where the ball's gone and where the player's gone. There's actually a hilarious meme on TikTok of someone throwing a ball for their dog and the dog spinning around in circles and the ball bouncing behind them. And someone's put, this is what Connor Goldson does for Rangers. But he is really concerning me at the moment. And I think at times, and I'm not saying that this guy's perfect, but John Suter seems to be getting an awful lot of criticism and blame for a lot of Connor Goldson's mistakes. Now, Connor's going to have to play Thursday because the European squad is what it is, and Leon Balogun's not in it. But Damien, do you think that Goldson is skating on very thin ice and does need to be perhaps looked at as actually being one of those that does need to be rotated out of the lineup for a little bit?
Yeah, I think he probably is. And again, I think if not for the injuries to Balogun, and obviously Davies is coming back from injury as well. I know he's back in the squad now, but he had been injured for a period. Again, I think it's just through necessity probably that he's been playing so much. With the Suter thing, obviously he was at fault for the first goal against Motherwell. He kind of went in for it. But an important thing to know is that he's playing out of position. Technically, he's playing as a left-sided centre half when he's actually more comfortable, and it always has been in his career, particularly at Hearts and in the national team as a right-sided centre half. So everything he's doing, it's kind of like in the mirror sort of thing. So that, I think that needs to be kept in mind when pointing out, individual errors and things like that. Whereas Goldson's playing in the same position he's played for years. And I do agree that he does seem to be a wee bit off it. There is that worry when the ball comes over the top, even if he's goal side, which a few times he's been caught a bit short. Even when he's goal side, I feel like he lets it bounce that one too many times rather than attack it and take care of it and clear his lines. And that allows an opposition player to run in and pick up the loose ball, pick up the second ball, and turn them and create massive problems. And had we not signed Super Jack Butland, we probably would have been looking at him having cost us a lot more goals and potentially points too.
Absolutely. John makes an interesting point. He says, is it better to play with a back 3 from now on due to our winger problems? I mean, that could be an answer. I mean, theoretically, you could obviously play with Golds to take, if you put Goldson in the middle of the 3, it would take away from these need to have the pace because you'd have Suter one side, Balogun the other side to cover that. Obviously, we can't do that in Europe. I suppose you could play Ben Davies there, but he is a bit of a bomb scare. But you then could use Tav and Ridvan as wing backs, and that is an interesting shout. But the only thing with that, John, is I'd say, and I don't know if you agree, Dave, I can't see Philippe Clement differing from his system. He seems to be very much a guy who likes to play 4-2-3-1, and we seem to play, and it seems to be that he rotates and uses his players in that 4-2-3-1 formation, no matter what.
That does seem to be the case, and I think particularly in the domestic games, I can't see us changing out from that very much. Although I think potentially in the European games, especially against an opponent as tough as Benfica, that may be an option in terms of pushing Ridvan and Tavernier a bit further up, and even maybe not having 3 recognised centre halves in a traditional back 3, but perhaps having someone like Sterling or even Lundstrom sitting really deep in between the 2 centre backs and creating a sort of a false back 5, if you like, to allow then, when in possession, that 5 to become a 3 and allow the Roman sort of fullbacks to get forward and cause problems on the wing, where we are, as we've said, quite threadbare just now.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that something you suggested to Big Phil when you met him on the other day, Damien?
I didn't have enough time to, but
Damien, is that something you suggested to Big Phil the other day?
If I had time, I might have suggested a few things.
Tam says Jack is a natural. Jack is a natural replacement for Lundstrom, but hasn't featured enough, probably down to protecting his limiting his minutes. I suppose that is one option. Domestically, we could, if we do need to rest Lundstrom, play Ryan Jack. Now he's seemingly is fit and he is training again. Rosie asks, when is Cantwell back? Now, he did put on his Instagram story the other day, Rosie, back soon, which appeared to be that Rangers are getting ready to getting him back. So, that is a possibility. And the sooner he's back, the better for me. He is, a high quality player. And we have missed him indeed. No, Geordie, he is not part of the Euro squad, unfortunately. I think Rosie's dropping some links here as well to some of your stuff there, Damien. So thank you, Rosie, for doing that.
Thank you.
Look, I mean, we're in a great position. I mean, it's still in our hands. That's the key thing for me. It's still in our hands. We're 2 points clear. Our goal difference is now +2 to it was +1. I don't think anyone would have predicted we'd be in a stronger position after that Motherwell defeat than we were, at the Saturday night at 5:00. But Damien, I mean, look, I know, taking the blue tinted goggles off a minute, because I know what I'd answer if you asked me this question. Can Rangers win this league this season?
Yeah, I think they can. I think as we've mentioned in recent weeks and recent discussions that we've had, the overriding concern continues to be, the overriding concerns, plural, continue to be our injury list, which, although started to improve, is now growing again. And B, it's that lack, and that's that thing we were talking about all January, which ultimately never came to fruition in terms of solving the problem in our eyes, at least. That lack of an out and out striker that can take a chance in a big game. That only needs one chance. It only needs a sniff to create something magical and to just burst the net.
Absolutely, 100%.
What about yourself? What do you think?
Yeah, I do agree. It is the one. Look, we've got a great opportunity to win the league this season, because I'll be honest with you, the two things that give me confidence is, number one, obviously the manager he is fantastic and he knows how to get this team to win, and the way he's changed it, it has been fantastic. And that's the first thing that gives me confidence, looking at Big Phil. The second thing, obviously, is the fact that them across the city, they are just an awful team. They are a genuinely dreadful team. This is not the machine of Ange Postecoglou. This is not Ange Postecoglou's Celtic. They don't look dominant. They don't look a force. They don't look the machine they once were. So I think we have got a great opportunity. And I think if we can win that game on the 7th of April against them, then it will very much be our league to lose from that point in. But we do have to beat them I think at least twice more, or at least a win and a draw with them at Parkhead or wherever that second Old Firm game will be after the split. We've got to at least come away unbeaten, I think, from those two games, Damien, to really win this league.
Yeah, I think those games are going to be crucial, particularly when we're not kind of taking opportunities against the other teams. You could argue that the Old Firm games are inconsequential ultimately, if you're not dropping the points against the other teams. But after the weekend there, we really can't afford any more slip-ups against either them or any other teams. We really need to for these remaining games. And this is why the injuries and the lack of goal scoring threat do concern me. We need to really tighten it up and not drop any more points. Obviously that's and Philippe Clement says this himself. He said, I want to win every game, and I've never been successful in that yet. There's always upsets and there's always twists and turns, particularly in a title race when the other teams got their problems as well and dropping points as well. It's going to be very, very interesting. But like you, I feel I've got a sense of calm and a sense of confidence because of the manager and because of the character that he has and because of his attributes and what he's achieved with this group of players. And that's before, don't forget, having a full pre-season with the players and having his own kind of summer transfer window, which ultimately means for me, as much as I don't like to think about us not winning the league this season, ultimately, if it's not to be, I don't think we need to be worried long term. I think Big Phil's the man to take us forward, and I think he's going to bring us silverware. Well, he already has done, but I think he's going to bring us more silverware in the very near future.
Absolutely,
regardless.
100%. Absolutely, I agree. Stephen Clark says we can't ever play like Saturday, so hopefully the players understand that and we cannot allow standards to drop again. I agree. I don't think Phil will allow it. I mean, especially after he said that it taught him some lessons about which players he can rely on to stand up when called upon, which I thought was a very interesting comment from him. Obviously, there were some players that probably will have got his ire post-match. Tam Brown says in the live chat, we'll need at least one centre back in the summer. I don't see Big Phil putting up with the same mistakes going forward. I agree. I mean, look, no matter what you think of Tav, of Connor, of John Suter, of Leon Balogun, of Borna, that's a whole different debate. You could do a whole podcast on him. The defense is getting a lot older, and we are going to need to completely, I think, overhaul that defense in the summer, Damien.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's something that we've touched upon, and something that we'd said could potentially be done gradually, but there are certain areas, and like you rightly say, particularly in the centre half region, where it's either not clicking due to they're getting on a bit and losing the yard, that half a yard of pace. Is it due to just not being available enough? Case in point, Ben Davies. He seems to be injured, not injured, injured, not injured. And again, when he's fit, his performances are a bit kind of hot and cold.
Yeah.
We need somebody that we kind of need somebody like a Goldson, but like a Goldson of old, somebody that's just Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable. Yes, we're all human. There are going to be mistakes in any defender. But we need somebody that's super, super reliable, somebody that's a stick on to start every single game. And ideally we need a left-sided centre back, because we don't really have one apart from Davis, and even he seems to struggle. Balogun does no bad there for a right-footed player, but again,
Yeah.
he's not the youngest. Do you know what I mean? So it's something we probably need to be looking at, definitely.
Absolutely. Robert Robertson says, I think we really need to change up at corners. We're clueless, especially with 10 Bob Heed trying to get on the end of them. Yeah, I mean, Damien, that's a whole different set of it. I mean, I could probably do a whole analysis on that, and that'll be the whole pod, I think. But corners, I don't know about you, Damien, but they're so poor. But what kind of stuns me is we seem to go through spells of outswinger, 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 outswinger. And we did all those in-swinging corners, which seemed to be a little bit more effective. But now we seem to have gone completely back the other way. I mean, would it not be an idea to try and mix them up a little bit and keep the opposition guessing, mixing swingers and outswingers? To me, it just seems we do one thing and we just keep doing that one thing and hope that something comes off from it.
Yeah, they say the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results, or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I agree. It's so frustrating to watch the same thing fail over and over and over again. We very, very seldom get the first contact on corners. Normally, always cleared away by a defender first and foremost. Even when we do, I mean, even in the last couple of games, Goldson's had a couple of free headers, which, fair enough. The first one had a right good bit of power on it, and it was a half decent save. The other one over the bar, other one kind of straight at the keeper. So even when we're making that contact, we're not making it count. We're not putting it in the back of the net. And I agree, it's another area. Is it a case of firefighting though? Because we've got so many games, because we're in a title fight, because we've got injuries. Is it a case of we'll deal with one thing at a time, and we're perhaps not looking at the set pieces as a priority?
Yeah.
Perhaps, but in my opinion, for a team that gets as many corners as we do, we need to be doing an awful lot better with them and making them count a lot more, because it's pointless winning 12, 13, 14, 15, sometimes more corners in a game when you don't have any chance of scoring from one of them. And likewise at the other end, we only need to concede one and we're liable to make a mess of it and concede a goal from it, So it's an area we need to look at, I think, at both ends probably, but particularly with the attacking them. I don't know what's going on.
Absolutely, 100%. That would be, Stephen, I would love to get those back. That would be amazing. Just brings back so many positive memories. We need Davy Cooper corners. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? I mean, bless him, God rest his soul. He was an amazing footballer, an absolutely amazing footballer, Davy Cooper. I've got to say, I was very fortunate that when I grew up and started following Rangers, Davy Cooper was playing for the team, and I got to see Davy Cooper play, and I'm thankful that I did. He was an incredible footballer, Damien.
Yeah, obviously there's limited footage of him, and unfortunately, it wasn't really my era in terms of watching him play week in, week out myself. But Yeah, you look at it. You only need to look at some of the footage of him, and he's just a magician. Just a magician with the ball at his feet. And you think, I think, was it not Ruud Gullit named him in his old time kind of 11 players? He said he was like hugely underrated, and that's a big. As a really good player himself, that's a great accolade as well. And obviously, only need to speak to any Rangers fan for the past, 30, 40 years, and they'll tell you exactly the same thing.
Absolutely, and I'll tell you something, Damien. If David Cooper was around and playing today, he would be worth Jude Bellingham type money. He really would be worth over £100 million. He was that good. For those of you who didn't get to see him play, he really would be worth, that almost, like I said, Bellingham money. These days, he would just, you'd be Real Madrid, Barcelona knocking on your door, offering you £100 million for him easily.
Yeah.
Thank you to Duncan McCarrick for the £10 super chat. Says, go buy Shankland a pint as a thank you for the goal against them. I'll be good. I'll head up to Edinburgh at some point when I'm not at work and see if I can track Lawrence down and get him that pint for you, Duncan. Not a problem.
If you threw a pint at him, you'd probably catch it. Did you see that thing with the pie?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And apparently there was someone threw AirPods at him as well. Apparently,
he was getting all sorts chucked at him, wasn't he? But he just takes it in his stride. Honestly, I would love to see him in blue. I would love to see him in Rangers colours.
Yeah. But tell you something, it really does show how stupid their fans are if they're throwing 140 odd quid AirPods at him, I tell you. Be absolutely ridiculous. Would you start with Dessers or Seamer, Owen? Well, when fit, I don't know, because they kind of play different positions really for me. So you could probably play both of them, to be honest with you. But if you're talking about playing Seamer through the middle or Dessers through the middle, I'd probably start Seamer through the middle, because to me, Seamer's someone who, when he goes through one-on-one, you trust him to put the ball in the back of the net. What do you think, Damien?
Oh, she meant Silva. I think I see. She said.
Okay, Silva. Oh, sorry, Silva. Okay, on Wednesday, who would I start for? I'd be honest with you. I'd probably start both of them just because we are so short of numbers. I'd probably start Silva in the 10 role and put Dessers in the 9 role, and put Lawrence on the wing, because we are just so short of players in those attacking positions. I know we've got Kemar Roof back, but I don't think Big Phil will start with him, because he's played 16 minutes, and then I think he got about 10 minutes on 10-15 minutes again on Saturday, so probably he's played about half an hour in the last few months, so I can't see him using him. So I'd start both of them, personally speaking, on Thursday night. How about you, Damien?
Yeah, I think we might have to do something like that. I think had Roof been completely unavailable, you probably would just need to pick one and kind of swap them depending on how the game's going. But with Roof on the bench, you probably could have Dessers in the striker role and have either Lawrence or Silva behind and one of them out wide, because they're fairly interchangeable with their qualities and their skills, and it might be a game that requires a bit of that, a bit of invention and a bit of swapping around to make things happen. And then obviously you've got the option of Roof later on if you need to, get somebody on, give Dessers a rest or try something a bit different. So probably, we probably will need to start with both of them, although traditionally we would only choose one.
Absolutely. I think it will be a mate doing men job on Thursday in terms of putting a team out there, which will be a very, very tough game on Thursday against a very, yes, Benfica have lost their last 2 games. They lost 2-1 to Sporting Lisbon, not last week, the week before, and then they lost 5-0 on Saturday or Sunday. I can't remember when it was now, to FC Porto, or they did have Nicolas Otamendi sent off, and I think most of the goals came after Otamendi had been sent off. So they're not in the best of form at the moment. Damien, how are you feeling ahead of Thursday?
Yeah, do you know what? I think because it's been so long between our last Europa League game and this one, and probably all that's happened in the league since, it kind of feels like it doesn't feel as if it's as pertinent or as like, I'm probably not explaining this very well, but it almost feels like something I just want to get out of the way and get back to, do you know what I mean? Get back to domestic football. I know that seems wild to say, but I think a lot of us sitting here just now would readily admit they didn't see us particularly being in the last 16 of the Europa League at this stage, it does feel like a bit of a bonus. And although I'd obviously want us to do well, I just can't get my head out of the domestic stuff just now. I kind of just want it to get out of the way and get back to work at winning this league.
Absolutely, yeah. I think there is that kind of thing, and I think obviously the frustrating thing is that we don't think we play in the league again now to the 17th, because obviously it's the cup game on Sunday against Hibs. Which obviously technically I suppose it is kind of at the same kind of level, because we do want to obviously win the Scottish Cup as well. We do want the domestic treble. We do want to make sure that we go on to win everything we can in Scotland, especially in anything you get in Europe, especially with the strength of the Europa League this season, looking at the likes obviously of Brighton and Liverpool in it, and obviously Liverpool are pretty much a very fearsome prospect at the moment, top of the EPL and probably one of the best teams in Europe at the moment. So anything we get in Europa League, I think will be a bonus. And I agree with you. I think there is kind of I think I said on the video this morning, it's a free hit. It's kind of in a way a free hit for us. We can just go out there and give it our best. And if we don't win and we don't get through, I think it's kind of nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah, it really feels bizarre to be saying that, but there is an element of it does feel like a bit of a bonus. And although I'd love us to do well, of all the teams that could have drawn, Benfica's probably in that kind of handful that we probably would have wanted to avoid. Although I did say at the time, and I meant it, I think we're capable of beating anybody on our day, particularly at home. So if we can limit, I mean, I think a draw will feel like a win over there on Thursday if we manage that. But at the very least, if we can limit their threat as much as possible, keep their goals to a minimum, even if we lose, anything could happen back at Ibrox. We've seen it time and time again. Anything could happen. So I would back us to beat anyone at Ibrox on our day. However, I just can't get it out of my head. I can't detach myself from the title fight and everything that's going on in domestic football. I think had it been like a week-to-week thing, like it normally is, I would be more like invested. But because it's been so long, it almost just feels like an abstraction. It's something that's not real. Obviously, on Thursday, I'll feel completely differently. The nerves will be going. I'll be fired up, ready to go. But talking about it just now, it just feels like, I'm just looking at that table and I'm just thinking everything's thinking about the like you say, the domestic silverware that's still available.
Absolutely, 100%. And I mean, as Stuart says here, he says, happy with a draw on Thursday, take it back to Ibrox so we can beat anyone. I think it's like you said, anything can happen against Ibrox. We know that. What for you would represent what would represent a good result for you, Damien, in this game on Thursday?
Yeah, I think I've upset someone there. I'm not saying that yes, we were in a European final a couple of years back. That was a completely different squad, completely different level of competition. As you've just touched on, the level of competition in the tournament this year is substantially different. I'm not saying that I want it over and concentrate on the league. I'm just saying because of the gap in between the last round and this, and because of what's going on in the league, I can't get my mind off of that just now. I think, like I said, what would represent a good result? Like I said, I think a draw would feel like a win. That would feel like a really, really good result. However, like I said, even if we lose, if we keep their goals to a minimum, if we keep it to maybe like a goal or two swing, anything could happen at Ibrox, and I back us to beat anybody. So it's going to be difficult, but I think if we can limit their success as much as possible away from home, we can. We're more than capable of doing the job at Ibrox and progressing to the next round, which I would love, by the way. I'm not saying for a second that I don't want that to happen. I'm just saying probably, I understand that a lot of people won't agree with me, but I just, at this particular moment in time, I can't extract myself away from everything that's going on domestically. But like I said, come Thursday, I'll be right in it. The nerves will be going. I'll be right fired up. I'll be screaming at this telly. Do you know what I mean? Like the rest of yous. Aye.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree. I don't think, we're not talking about rolling over. We're talking about realisticness. We're talking about, it's almost like I said, a free hit because of the fact that I think if you ask most Rangers fans, I think, they want us to focus on being as successful at home in domestically as possible and winning the trophies in it, winning the league, winning the cup. That is kind of the focus. And yes, of course, I want us to do well in Europe, and I'd love to win the quadruple. Of course, I would. But I'm kind of, as much as I love this club. It's in my blood and everything like that. I have got to have a realistic element to this, and realistically, our best hopes of winning silverware this season is the Scottish Cup and the Scottish Premier League. That is the best hopes. As much as I love the club and I'll never ever not have faith in us. If it came down to a game against Liverpool or a game, against a team like that, Liverpool playing at their very best against us playing at their very best, 9 times out of 10, they are going to beat us, whether we like it or not, because they have just got so much more expensive, better players than us, even with all their injuries, but I mean, Salah will be back for the next round. Darwin Nunez is a quality player. They've got Virgil van Dijk. They've got Alisson Becker. They're probably the best keeper in the world. They just have so much more money than us. And to me, it's about getting into the Champions League as well, winning our domestic league, getting straight into the group stages next season so we can generate that extra income that will allow us to then go on and compete in Europe. That's kind of what I was meaning. But I agree. It's not about rolling over. And yeah, I will be just the same as you, Damien. Come Thursday night, I'll be totally invested and screaming at screaming on the live stream on Thursday night. Jordy, yeah, the away goals rule has been chucked out now. It has gone. It has gone now. Damien, now how would you line up on Thursday night? What would be your lineup for Thursday night?
Well, it's funny that we did end up kind of talking about it a wee bit earlier on. I think we will go with more of a back three, with the fullbacks being given more license to go forward when we've got the ball. I don't think he'll start because of our lack of traditional centre back options. I don't think he will play 3 traditional centre backs. I would go with obviously Butland, Tav, Ridvan, and in the middle probably Goldson, Suter, with the options that we've got just now. But perhaps have a Sterling in a sort of a deep sitting role, like supplementing that when out of possession, creating like more of a back three. And allowing Tav and Ridvan to get forward when we've got the ball. I would then look probably in front of them. You'll be looking at like Lundstrom, perhaps even Jack, to sort of anchor the midfield in front of that, and then have Diomande and Lawrence with a wee bit more freedom to get forward, drifting out wide, cutting inside, and then I would have probably Silva. I would have Silva up front to start with, because it's going to be one of those kind of games where he's going to need to do what he does and come short a lot to win the ball. We're not going to have a lot of, free flowing kind of hitting the ball over the top, getting him away on the break. It's going to be a bit of a fight, and I think that plays to Silva's strengths in terms of coming short, winning the ball, and then if we've got our fullbacks roaming forward in the overlap, we can create some opportunities for ourselves on the break. That's how I would line up, but. Listen, I'm not Philippe Clement, so and Philippe we trust. What about yourself? Absolutely. How would you go?
Yeah, I agree. It's becoming increasingly difficult to actually predict what lineup Big Phil will field. I always try and predict on the matchday news videos the lineup, and 9 times out of 10 I get it hideously wrong because he does change it. This is how I would line up. I'd go with Butland in goal, Tav, Goldson, Suter, and Ridvan as the back 4. Please don't play Borna Barisic. Please don't play him. Lunny and Diomande in front of the back 4, because I think Lunny, like you said, will sit deeper, put him into that middle, can drop into that become defensive like a back 3 in a way. Gives Dio the chance to get forward. I would go with Lawrence on the left, Sterling on the right. Mainly because I think Sterling then can cover for Tav if Tav goes bombing on. Silva, I think, again, like you said, he play him in the 10 role. A couple of reasons, like you said, Damien, he's good at dropping short and going and getting the ball and bringing the ball forward, which I think will help. And also, he's an FC Porto player. He came through the youth system at Porto. They hate Benfica. So I think, there's that determination he'll have to want to do well against Benfica. And also, he's got something to prove. He's a £35 million player, and he'll want to prove to Wolves that they've got them a good, decent player there. And doing it in the Europa League against a team like Benfica is a good way to do that. And Dessers has to start up front because other than Kemar Roof, there is no other option. And I just don't think Roof's able to start games at the moment. It's just too big a risk with Kemar to even put him anywhere in there. So that's how I would line up on Thursday. I think as well it gives, like you said as well, a bit of flexibility there because Diamande, Lawrence, Silva can all kind of rotate and change positions, and any sort of rotation and fluidity in those attacking areas can confuse defenders, pull defenders out of position. I think anything we can do to get a goal or a couple of goals, well, he's got to do that. But like you said, in Big Phil we trust. He could come out with a completely different team to that. Absolutely, 100%. To do that as well. So there we go. We've got those guys in that team that have runners-up medals like Tav and Lully. They might want to go on better. I suppose they might want to get the Europa League winners medal. Damien, have you got have you got a prediction for Thursday night?
I hate to predict. I think, I can't see us. I can't see us beating them. Put it that way. Although, like I said, we can do anything could happen, and we are capable on our day of beating anyone. And I truly mean that. I think away from home to a good Benfica side, although they've lost the last couple of games, I think their budget outweighs us like times 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a fight. I think if we can get a draw, that'll feel like a right good result. But I think I said somebody agreed with me earlier on. I think if we can limit their goals as much as possible, even anything like a 2-1 or a 3-1 or 2-0 isn't a disaster, because when we get teams back to Ibrox with that full stadium behind us, we can turn anybody over. So I predict it's going to be difficult. I think a draw would feel like a win, but it's probably going to be like a 2-1, 2-0 Benfica or something like that. Hate to be negative and pessimistic, but if you're asking me to predict, that's what I think. What about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go 2-2. Bit of just because I just think that they're defensively weak. So I'm going to go for a 2-2, get a draw, and then bring it back to Ibrox. But I do, like you, Damien, have slight concerns. Obviously, they are a bigger budget than we do for definite, and lots of questions about the Euro squad in the live chat. So that is the Euro squad as it has been named after the Big Phil made the 3 changes. So Butland, McCrory, Wright are the keepers. Defenders Tav, Ridvan, Suter, Goldson, Sterling, Davis, and Barisic. This doesn't include the likes, obviously, of Lovelace, doesn't include the likes of Cole McKinnon and so on, who are included because they are obviously homegrown players. They can be put in as part of the B list. John Lundstrom, Ryan Jack, Mohamed Diamande, Nico Raskin in the midfield. Forwards, Silva, Dessers, Lawrence, Cantwell, Matondo, Seema, Wright, and Roof. That is the actual squad as named on the Rangers website for this next stage. So that's the squad. Kenneth Elliott is going for 2-1 to us. Tam's going for a 1-1. All that I will take 100%. I'll take all those results. Absolutely. Any sort of draw. Damien, before we head off out of here, is there anything you'd like to plug or anything you'd like to talk about or anything you'd like to put across to the guys watching tonight?
Yeah, please. I've actually sent you a link on the chat. I'm not logged into the main chat, but I've sent you a link for you to share if possible. Yeah,
it's there. It's done.
Perfect. Thank you. And what that is my girlfriend is doing the Kilt Walk, which is like you walk 23 miles in one day, and you do it for a charity of your choice. She's doing it for Action for ME, because I was diagnosed with ME a few years ago. I don't really speak about this much, but they're a great charity that works with individuals and families who suffer from it, and they do a lot of work for sort of lobbying to get more research. It's one of the most underfunded conditions in terms of research to the number of people it affects, if that makes sense. So she's doing an amazing thing. I thank her so much for it. And that link I sent you was to her team's sort of fundraising page for it. So yeah, I know times are tough just now, but if anybody's able to anything at all on that, no matter how small, would be hugely appreciated.
Yeah, I have to say, Damien, absolutely, yeah, I agree with that. And guys, like Damien says, I know times are tough at the moment. I know we're going through a cost of living crisis and money is short, but anything we can do for worthwhile charities like this, if you can go on to that's the link for it, guys. If it doesn't click directly from the live chat, then obviously just type it into your browser, go into it. And if you can donate anything to support what Damien's girlfriend is doing, which is fantastic, walking all that distance for ME. Please go ahead and do so. You know, it is an illness that, you know, it does affect a lot of people in the UK. So anything we can do to help out families and help out people, that is what we do as a family, as a Rangers family. We come together, we support each other. I will also put that on a community post as well tomorrow morning. So if you can't find the link in the live chat, then I will put it onto a community post for you guys, so you can find it on the community post as well. If you can donate something, that would be absolutely fantastic. Thank you to everybody for that. Damien, it's been fantastic having you on again tonight. I'm not sure what happened to Lorah tonight. I'll go and try and find out find out how she is. Hope she's okay.
Yeah, I hope she's okay, man. But it's been good.
Rosie,
it's been good as usual chatting.
Absolutely. Rosie says my son's going to be taking part in an MMA fight for mental health. He's only 18, just getting started. I'll send the details. Just remembered. Certainly, Rosie, send it over. Send it over, definitely, especially for mental health, which again is another worthwhile cause, something that isn't this very close to my heart as well. So yeah, definitely, Rosie, send that over. Yeah, Damien, it's been a weird week so far. Let's get back to a bit of normality over the next couple of days on Thursday and on Sunday. Obviously, we look forward to the cup tie on Sunday. Overall, though, Damien, it is an exceptionally positive picture for the club going forward at the moment.
It really is, mate, and like a lot of people, I think after Saturday we probably didn't envisage ourselves still being top of the league. Again, not to be pessimistic, but you wouldn't expect them to slip up in the way they did. And it's been, you don't like relying on favours from other teams, but it was precisely what we needed after Saturday. And like you say, it stands us in a really good position. It's still in our hands, and yeah, it's all to play for. And just to clarify one more time, I really want to beat Benfica. Of course I do. I'm just having problems myself, extracting myself mentally from the title fight. But like we've said, like has been said already by both of us, Owen, I'll be there. I'll be watching it on Thursday night, and I'll be with a fire in my belly and a pint in my hand, and I'll be backing us all the way. Don't you worry about that.
Absolutely, 100%. And guys, remember there will be a live stream on Thursday night of the game. I'll be bringing you a live stream of that game. As I actually have a day off work, finally, thank God. So there will be a live stream of that game. Well, guys, as always, on the way out, there's two things I always ask of you. Number one is to smash the like. It helps the video to grow and defeats that evil algorithm on YouTube, whatever that algorithm is, like some sort of fabled monster from the past. And also, please never forget, always remember, we are